pulses crop. It is nothing but chickpea. Its origin, geographical distribution, its economic importance, soil and climatic requirement, varieties and cultural practices, and yield. We are going to see about these concepts of chickpea. Okay, let's move on. Before starting this chapter, I wanted to say about some points about pulse crop production in India, okay, and its role. This role of pulses in Indian agriculture needs hardly any emphasis. Okay, India is a premier pulse growing country of pulses, and it is the integral part of the cropping systems of farmers. And by using this pulse crop, we can mostly used in crop rotation and crop mixtures also. Okay, these are very easy to crop rotate, and pulses are very important constituents of Indian diet and supply major part of the protein requirements. If anybody was deficient in protein requirement, they used to feed with pulse crops only. Pulse crops, besides being rich in protein and some of the essential amino acids, it enriches the soil through symbiotic nitrogen fixation from atmosphere. Okay, this pulse crop also useful in fixing nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere and the soil. In India, the total food production in the year 1999 to 2000 was about 209 million tonnes. Out of this, only 13.4 million tonnes was contributed by pulses. How much it was? 13.4 million tonnes was contributed by pulses. The production of cereals increased by 460% since 1950 to 51. And the production of pulses has increased only 178%. So that there is a shortage of pulses in the country. The price also has been increased as due to decreased production. Okay, the price has increased considerably, and the consumer is hard hit to buy its requirements. Thus, the availability of pearls per capita per day has prominently declined from 71 gram to 36.9 gram against the minimum requirement of 70 gram per capita per day. So there is not much possibility of the import of pulses in the country. The production of pulses has to be increased internally to meet the demand. Okay, and pulse crop is also known as gram, and it is the most important pulse crop in India. Chickpea occupies about 38% of area under pulses and contributes about 50% of the total pulse crop production in India. Okay, how much it was contributing? 38% under area and 50% of total pulse production. Okay, and it is used for human consumption as well as for feeding to animals. It is eaten both whole fried or boiled and salted, or more generally in the form of split pulse, which is cooked and eaten. We mostly all the people will like dal. From where it comes from pulses only, we used to cook that dal. Okay, both husk and bits of dal are valuable cattle feed. Okay, this was the some introduction part of chickpea. Next, moving to taxonomy, it belongs to kingdom Plantae, division Magnoliophyta, and class Magnoliopsida, order Fabiales, family Fabaceae, subfamily Faboidea, and genus Caesar, and species Caesar Aricinum. Okay, this was about taxonomy. Next, moving to origin and distribution. Chickpea is probably originated from southeast Turkey. Okay, mostly it has been known from the long time. It is said to be one of the oldest pulses known as, and cultivated from ancient times both in Asia and in Europe. Okay, its probable place of origin lies in Southwest Asia also. It has numerous number of diversities which has been found by Vavilov in year 1951. Of them, Mediterranean, Central Asia and the Near East India. Okay, as well as the secondary origin in Ethiopia. This was about origin and distribution. Distribution of chickpea can be said as it is cultivated on about 9.89 million hectares in the world with an average annual production of 7.80 million tonnes in the year 2002. And it is the most important pulse crop of India, occupying an area of 6.3 million hectares with production of 5.1 million tonnes. The average yield of chickpea is only 806 kg per hectare. The major chickpea production areas are situated in India, if you see, the major production is in the areas of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Maharashtra and Punjab. If you see the production, the growing of chickpea in the world, it is in the areas of Canada, Mexico and in Europe, Oceania, in Australia. Chickpea is grown mainly in Spain and Portugal also. Chickpea is grown in Oceania and in Australia. These were the some countries according to the world. And this is about area and distribution. Now moving to economic importance. As I said before, chickpea plays an important role in India in the pulse crops. Okay, the grain are also used as vegetable as chole. If we go to the north, mostly the famous food will be chole. Chola bhature you have already listened, I think so. I too like that. I think you also like that, students. And chole, it is nothing but chickpea. And chickpea flour also can be used in various types of sweets. Chickpea is also considered to have medicinal effects and it is used for blood purification. Okay, if we see according to the diet, chickpeas are good source for fiber, so helps in weight loss, and it is a good source of protein and energy. It helps in stabilizing sugar levels in blood. It also helps in reducing cholesterol. It boosts energy levels due to their iron content. It also helps in low glycemic index, which is good for diabetic patients. If there are any elders or in your relatives suffering from diabetes, you can suggest chickpea as their diet. It helps them so much. Chickpea occupies about 38% of area under pulses and contributes about 50% of the total pulse production of India. The grains are also used as vegetable, as I said before. Chickpea is considered to have medicinal effects and used for blood purification. It contains 21.1% protein, 61.5% carbohydrates, 4.5% fat, and it is rich in calcium, iron and niacin. This is about economic importance. And now moving to soil and climatic requirement. Chickpea is a winter season crop, but severe cold and frost are also injurious to it. Okay, frost at the time of flowering results in the failure of flowers to develop seeds or in the killing of seeds inside the pod. Too much frost is also very dangerous for this chickpea crop. It is generally grown under rain-fed conditions but gives good returns in irrigated conditions as well. Okay, chickpea, it generally grown under rain-fed conditions, right? But also in irrigated conditions, by maintaining in a good manner, it gives good results. It is best suited to areas having moderate rainfall of 60 to 90 centimeters per annum. If you see the soil requirement, chickpea is grown on a wide range of soils in India. In the north, gram is generally grown on moderately heavy soils. If you see in Maharashtra and on the Deccan Plateau, black cotton soils are used. Okay? If you see in Maharashtra, which type of soils will be used? Black cotton soils. Light soils, mostly sandy loam soils preferred in Punjab. Heavy soils in Maharashtra, light soils in Punjab and Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and Rajasthan. Though gram is grown on all kinds of soils, sandy loam to clay loam soil is considered to be more suitable. Which soils are more suitable? Sandy loams and clay loam soil is more suitable for growing chickpea. The best type of soil for chickpea is one that is well drained and not too heavy. On dry and light soils, the plants remain short, while on heavy soils having high water retention capacity, the vegetative growth is abundant. Light becomes limiting and fruiting is retarded. So we have to choose the soil according to the situation of the climate and also the place. The soil chosen for its cultivation should be free from excessive soluble salts and near neutral in reaction. However, it is not suited to soil having pH higher than 8.5. Okay? We should not use the soils which are heavier than 8.5 pH. Next, moving to its varieties, there are two different types of varieties in chickpea. One is Desi variety and Kabuli chickpea varieties. If we see some Desi varieties, here are some varieties: Avrodi, Pant 186, Gaurav, Uday KP 75, Husa 256, Haryana, Chana 1, Pant G 114, Anegri 1, B 124. If you see some varieties belong to Kabuli chickpea varieties, C104, L550, L144, Pusa 1053 and 1003 and Sada Bahar. Okay, these are some types of varieties. I have said there were two different types of varieties. Of them, several improved varieties of chickpea have been evolved in different chickpea growing states. If you see in Tamil Nadu, ICCV10 and please note it out, I haven't mentioned here. In Tamil Nadu state, ICCV10, BDN93, CO3 and CO4. Okay, these were the improved varieties which were growing in Tamil Nadu state. ICCV10, repeating again, BDN93, CO3 and CO4. If you see in Andhra Pradesh, it is ICCV2, ICCV37, ICCV4, ICCV10. These were the improved varieties in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and now moving to cultivation practices. It requires field preparation. It is highly sensitive to soil aeration. Okay, this imposes a restriction for its cultivation on heavy soils and calls for special care in seedbed preparation. So that we have to take good attention in making seedbeds. A rough seedbed is required. In case the chickpea crop is taken after a kharif fallow, it would be desirable to go for a deep ploughing during the monsoon, as the same would be help in larger conservation of rainwater in the soil profile for subsequent use by this crop. Very fine and compact seedbed is not good for chickpea. So we have to take care while we are preparing the seedbed for chickpea. Okay, chickpea is highly sensitive to soil erosion, and also in case it requires a loose and well aerated seedbed also. It also required well aerated seedbed. Now moving to seed and sowing. Date of sowing has been recognized as single non-monetary input affecting most the yield of chickpea in all chickpea growing areas. Hence, non-monetary means without money, but it was affecting that much chickpea if you are not sowing the seeds in a proper time, in a proper season. Okay, experiments conducted under the All India Coordinated Pulse Improvement Project. In this project, at different centers over last several years have amply demonstrated that second fortnight of October is the optimum time for sowing chickpea. Which is the optimum time for sowing chickpea? Second fortnight of October. Second fortnight of October is the optimum time for sowing chickpea in most of the chickpea growing areas of northern India. If it was peninsular India, first fortnight of October is the best time for chickpea sowing. If it was northern India, the second fortnight of October is the optimum time, and it is peninsular India, the first fortnight of October is the best time for chickpea sowing. Delay beyond this period results in conspicuous reduction in yield. Under humid subtropical conditions of Tarai, which are characterized by shallow water table and relatively more winter rainfall, first fortnight of November is most suitable. In which region it is most suitable? Under humid subtropical conditions of Tarai, the first fortnight of November is most suitable. Early sowing of chickpea results in excessive vegetative growth and poor setting of pods. We do not require any vegetative growth, but we should mostly focus on reproductive growth. Hence, early sowing, we have to restrict that early sowing of chickpea. The early sown crop suffers more from wilt owing to high temperatures at that time. Hence, we have to maintain the perfect sowing season and time for chickpea. The crop may be sown by seed drill or local plough at a row spacing of 30 to 40 centimeters. A seed rate of 75 to 100 kg per hectare, depending upon seed size, may be sufficient for 1 hectare. It means the method of sowing will be by seed drill or local plough at row spacing of 30 to 40 centimeters, and seed rate required according to the seed size. Its optimum was 75 to 100 kg per hectare. Okay, the seed should be placed of about 8 to 10 centimeters deep, because the shallow be treated with 0.25% of thiram or carbendazim before sowing. So we have to place the seeds within 8 to 10 centimeters deep. Okay, this was about seed and sowing. Moving to manures and fertilizers. Chickpea being a leguminous crop, it fulfills the major part of its nitrogen requirement. Of about 75%, it will fulfill the requirement of nitrogen through the process of symbiotic nitrogen fixation, which works effectively from 3 to 4 weeks after sowing. Okay, after sowing this crop, 3 to 4 weeks after, it starts fixing nitrogen in the soil. Okay, however, soils with low organic matter and poor nitrogen supply may require about 20 to 25 kg per hectare of nitrogen as a starter dose, which can meet plant requirement before the formation of nodules. Okay, how much it required if the soils were very poor in nitrogen content or fertile content, then we have to apply about 20 to 25 kg of nitrogen per hectare. Besides nitrogen, pulses responds very favorably to phosphorus application. If the soils are deficient in phosphorus supply, then we have to apply the phosphorus. If both nitrogen and phosphorus are required to be supplied, then diammonium phosphate of 1846 it means NPK at the rate of 100 to 150 kg per hectare should be applied uniformly before the last disking plow. Okay, when we are plowing it last time, then we have to apply. If there are any deficiency of both nitrogen and phosphorus, we can apply diammonium phosphate at the rate of, with the rate of 100 to 150 kg per hectare. Okay, responses to potassium application have been inconsistent. It means negligible. It is better if all the fertilizers are drilled in furrows at the depth of 7 to 10 centimeters. Okay, where we have to place these fertilizers in the 7 to 10 centimeters of soil, then it will give good response. Okay, next moving to water management. Chickpea is mostly sown as a rainfed crop. However, where irrigation facilities are available, give a pre-sowing irrigation. It means before sowing you have to give one irrigation if there is availability of irrigation facilities. It will ensure proper germination and smooth crop growth. If winter rains fall, give one irrigation at pre-flowering stage and one at pod development stage. Okay, one at pre-flowering stage and one at pod development stage. In no case, first irrigation should be given at flowering time of gram crop. If there are no any irrigation facilities, then we have to give first irrigation at the time of flowering of gram crop. A light irrigation should be given because heavy irrigation is always harmful to the gram crop. Okay, excess of irrigation enhances vegetative growth and depresses chickpea yield. If there is greater growth in reproductive growth, then it will be useful for chickpea. There is no use of vegetative growth, hence we have to give less amount of irrigation and in optimum level. Next, moving to weed control. Chickpea, being a stature crop, suffers severely by infestation of weeds. For this, we have to give one hand weeding or interculture with hand hoe or wheel hoe after 25 to 35 days. Okay, when we have to give one hand weeding after 25 to 30 days, we have to give one hand weeding or any interculture operation with hand hoe or wheel hoe. Okay, after that, second, if there is any more weeds, then we have to give second weeding after 60 days of sowing. It will reduce the weeds. Okay, next, fluclorilin or basilin 1 kg per hectare in 800 to 1000 liters of water as per planting spray may be used as an effective herbicide. Fluclorilin helps in reduction of weeds by spraying it in a quantity of about 800 to 1000 liters of water, okay, of 1 kg of fluclorilin. Planting spray may be used as an effective herbicide. It should be well incorporated in the soil before sowing. In case of basilin is not available, use metribuzin or prometrine at the rate of 1.5 to 1.5 kg active ingredient in 800 to 1000 liters of water per hectare as pre-emergent spray. We can also use basilin as in basilin. Okay, if there is no availability of basilin, then we can go for metribuzin or prometrine at rate of 1.0 to 1.5 kg active ingredient per hectare. It can be used as pre-emergence spray. Okay, hand weeding or interculture with the help of hoe is always better than herbicides because interculture operations improve aeration in the soil so that it develops the growth of the plant. Okay, this was about weed control. Next, moving to disease management. There were two different types of diseases in chickpea. Okay, let's see, this one is soil-borne diseases and foliar diseases. Chickpea is known India by different names, right? You already know about that. Okay, even though there is a scope for increasing chickpea production in approximately 12 million hectares, but there will be effects by some diseases or weeds or pests. So we have to control this every year in an effective manner. Okay, so let's go to the diseases. Here, first one is Fusarium wilt. I haven't described the points here, so please note down the points. I will slowly explain it one by one. First one is about Fusarium wilt. In this Fusarium wilt, it is also said as Fusarium oxysporum, F species, size race. Fusarium wilt, Fusarium oxysporum, F species, size race. Okay, it is distributed and widespread worldwide and causes 100% yield loss. So we have to take care of about this disease and we have to control. Let's see what were the symptoms of this disease. It is a seed and soil borne disease. Okay, Fusarium wilt is a seed and soil borne disease favored by dry weather at 25 degrees centigrade, and it also the symptoms appears from seedling to maturity stages. Okay, it affects plant appear in patches. Okay, affected seedlings show desiccation and dull green discoloration. Diagnostic symptoms is dark brown discoloration of xylem, infected seeds or shriveled. Okay, these were the symptoms of Fusarium wilt. Next, you can control this by host plant resistance by growing resistant varieties of some varieties like JG14, JG11, Viper, Birsa Chana. Okay, Viper, JG14, JG11 or some of the resistant varieties. You can also do some cultural practices for this Fusarium wilt, that are use disease-free seed, avoid late sowing, follow 4-year crop rotations. Okay, what were the cultural practices for controlling Fusarium wilt? Use disease-free seed, avoid late sowing, follow 4-year crop rotations. You can control this by chemical seed treatment with carbendazim at the rate of 2 gram per kg or binomial at the rate of 3 gram per kg. Okay, what was the seed treatment with the carbendazim at the rate of 2 gram per kg or binomial at the rate of 3 gram per kg? We can control by these chemicals. Okay, if you see biological methods, seed treatment with Pseudomonas fluorescens, Trichoderma harzianea, Trichoderma viridae, Bacillus subtilis, etc. at the rate of 4 gram per kg of seeds. By using these methods, we can control this Fusarium wilt. Next, moving to dry root rot. It is said as Rhizoctonia betaticola. Dry root rot is DRR or Rhizoctonia betaticola. It is distributed and economic importance is it is emerging as a potential disease under rainfed environment. Okay, where it is mostly occur, it is occurred mainly in the area where under rainfed environment. It is reported from India, Ethiopia, Australia, Bangladesh, Iran, Kenya, Turkey, Myanmar. These were the some regions where this disease has been mostly occurred. It also causes 10 to 20% annual loss and causes 100% loss in susceptible cultivars. How much loss it will maintain? 10 to 20% annual loss will be caused by dry root rot. Okay, what was the diagnostic symptoms of this? Let's see. It is favored by high temperature of above 30 degrees centigrade and soil moisture stress. If there is any soil moisture stress or any high temperature in this cultivating season, then dry root rot will easily spread. Okay, it also manifests symptoms from flowering to podding growth stage. The main symptoms of this is drooping of petioles, and leaflets are the characteristic symptoms. Okay, drooping of petioles and leaflets are the characteristics of symptoms. Leaves and stems of affected plants become straw colored. When uprooted, the lower portion of the taproot remains in the soil. Okay, and it also be diagnosed by dark taproot and no lateral roots. Dark minute sclerotia can be seen on the infected roots. These were okay. Moving to control measures for dry root rot. If it was we are going to control by cultural practices, grow extra short duration cultivars to avoid terminal rot, and sowing on time will also reduce this disease, and give irrigation at flowering. What was the cultural practices for controlling dry root rot? Grow extra short duration cultivars to avoid terminal rot. Okay, second point is about sowing on time, and third is about give irrigation at flowering. Okay, if you are going to control by chemical method, seed treatment with Capton or Therum or Benomil at the rate of 3 gram per kg of seed can control this dry root rot disease. Next, moving to collar root rot. The distribution of this disease mostly the collar root also can be said as Sclerotium rolfi. Sclerotium rolfsii. Okay, Sclerotium rolfi. Okay, it is emerging as a potential disease and reported from Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Pakistan, and India. These were the distribution areas of collar rot. The diagnostic symptoms were: it was favored by high moisture and temperature. Affected seedlings turn yellow, and it appears in small scattered patches in the field. And it also can be seen by whitish mycelia at the collar region. The name itself says that is as collar rot, and we can say see whitish mycelia on the collar region. What was the diagnostic symptoms? It is favored by high moisture and temperature. Seedlings turn yellow, and it scatters small scattered patches on the field. Whitish mycelia can be seen at the collar region. It can be controlled by soil aeration in summer, avoid high soil moisture at sowing and seedling stage, remove all undecomposed organic matter. And we can control this by chemical method: seed treatment with carboxyl at the rate of 3 gram per kg of seed. Seed treatment with carboxyl at the rate of 3 gram per kg of seed will helps to reduce this collar rot. Okay, application of calcium fertilizer also reduce this incidence. If we are going to control it by biological method, use of biocontrol agents such as Trichoderma hazardium and Trichoderma viridae, Bacillus subtilis will be very useful to control this disease. Now moving to black root rot, Fusarium solani. It is distributed in different areas in the country, in the world. It is reported from Iran, Argentina, Chile, Mexico, Spain, Syria, USA, and India. And if we see the diagnostic symptoms, it is favored by high moisture and temperature, mostly occurs at seedling stage. Affected plants turn yellow and wilt. It is diagnosed by black rotten roots. Okay. If we see the control measures of this, cultural practices: avoid high soil moisture and waterlogging. And if you are going to control this disease by chemical method, seed treatment with Therum or Capton helps to reduce the incidence of this disease. Next disease was wet root rot. It is distributed in various areas of this country. Wet root rot is also caused by Rhizoctonia solani. Okay, if it is reported and it is reported from several countries. If we see the diagnostic symptoms of this disease, it is favored by high soil moisture temperature. It is commonly seen at seedling stage. It can also be occur at later stages in irrigated condition. So when affected with this disease, seedling turn yellow with drooping petioles and leaflet. Seedling does not collapse. Diagnostic symptom is a sunken dark brown lesion above the collar region. Okay, what we can see, a sunken dark brown lesion above the collar region. Stem and root below the lesion rot and pinkish mycelial growth can be seen. Okay, so that we can say it as wet root rot disease. It can be controlled by avoid excessive moisture, well-drained soils and tillage. It can be controlled by treating the seeds with Captan or Therum or Benomil at the rate of 3 gram per kg of seeds. It can be controlled by applying Captan or Therum or Benomil at the rate of 3 gram per kg of seed. Next, moving to foliar diseases. First one is about Ascochyta blight. It is distributed from 35 countries. Ascochyta blight can cause up to 100% yield loss. So we have to alert when this disease has incidence more than the ETL level. Okay. And its diagnostic symptoms were, it is seed borne, can spread through debris also. It is favored by cool and humid weather. All aerial parts are attacked. Small water-soaked lesions on leaves and stems and on pods can be seen. Black dots can be seen within the lesions. Apical twigs, branches and stems show girdling, break at point of girdling. Okay, on pod frown, sunken lesions with a pale center and dark margins are seen. These were the diagnostic symptoms. Repeating again, it is favored by cool and humid weather. All aerial parts are attacked. Small water-soaked lesions on leaves, stems and pods are seen. Black dots can be seen within the lesions. Apical twigs, branches and stems show girdling, G-I-R-D-L-I-N-G, girdling, break at point of girdling. Okay, on pods round, sunken lesions with a pale center and dark margins are seen. We can control these plants by growing resistant varieties like Himchana 1, Gaurav, Vardhan, Samrat, PBG1 and BG261. Repeating again, by growing resistance varieties we can reduce the incidence of this disease. Okay, Himchana 1, Gaurav, Vardhan, Samrat, PBG1 and BG261. We can also control this disease by cultural control, late sowing, remove and destroy debris of dead plants, and also crop rotation, intercropping with barley, wheat and mustard. Also helps to reduce this incidence of this disease. It can also be controlled by treating the seeds with Therum at the rate of 3 gram per kg and by foliar spray of chlorothalonil at the rate of 2 ml per liter. Okay, these were the methods to control Ascochyta blight. Next, moving to Botrytis grey mold, BGM you can call it as, and Botrytis cinerea. Botrytis cinerea. Okay, it is distributed and considered as important disease worldwide. It also results in 100% yield losses. Okay, diagnostic symptoms of BGM is seed and airborne. It is a seed and airborne disease. It occurs at low temperature and high humidity. All aerial parts are attacked. Growing tips and flowers are most vulnerable. Water soaking lesions visible on stems, branches, leaves, flowers, and pods. Lesions turn grey or dark brown, covered with erect, hairy spore masses. The infected pod produce shriveled or no seeds. Repeating again the symptoms of this disease, it is a seed and airborne disease. It occurs at low temperature and high humidity areas. All aerial parts have been attacked by this disease. The growing tips and flowers are most vulnerable for this. Water soaking lesions visible on stem. These are the symptoms. Water soaking lesions visible on stem, branches, leaves, flowers, and pods. Lesions turn grey or dark brown, covered with erect hairy spore masses. These infected pods produce shriveled or no seeds. Okay, these were the diagnosis symptoms of BGM. It can be controlled by growing resistant varieties like BG276, GL 90159, GL 91040. Repeating again, we can control this disease by growing resistant varieties like BG276, GL 90159, GL 91040. It can be controlled by cultural methods like deep ploughing, late sowing, adopt wider spacing, intercropping with linseed or wheat, avoid excessive vegetative growth, avoid excess irrigation. Okay, these were the cultural control methods to control BGM. Deep ploughing, late sowing, adopt wider spacing, intercropping with linseed or wheat, avoid excessive vegetative growth, and avoid excess irrigation. If you are going to control this disease with chemicals, see treatment with carbendazim along with the theorem at the rate of 3 gram per kg are required to control this disease. If you are going to spray foliar spray of carbendazim at the rate of 1 gram per liter are applicable. Moving to anthracnose, Colletotrichum dimetium, DEMATIUM. Okay, Colletotrichum dimetium. It is distributed in very less areas, and it also reported from India. It is a minor disease. We can consider it as minor disease. It is a seed and soil borne disease. It occurs at high temperature and heavy rain areas. It can kill the plants at any crop growth stage. Wilting and drying of seedlings are common symptoms. Okay, what were the common symptoms of anthracnose? Wilting and drying of seedlings are common symptoms. In adult plants, lesions are elongated, sunken, and dark brown on stem and circular to elongate on leaves and pods. Okay, if you see in adult plants, lesions are elongated and sunken. These are dark brown on stem and circular to elongate on leaves and on pods. Okay, the fruiting bodies of acerville are seen within the lesions. Okay, these were the some symptoms of anthracnose. It can be controlled by cultural methods like late sowing, crop rotation, use disease-free seeds. If you are going to control with chemical, seed treatment with carbendazim at the rate of 2 gram per kg, spraying chlorothalonil at the rate of 2 gram per liter are suitable for this. Next, moving to Sclerotiana stem rot. It is also said as Sclerotiana sclerotirum, SCLEROTINIA, Sclerotiana, SCLEROTIORUM, Sclerotiarum. Okay, it is reported from most of the chickpea growing regions, and the symptoms are it mostly seen in excessive vegetative growth, high soil moisture, and cool weather regions favor disease development. Diagnostic symptoms is chlorosis or drying branches in the field. A web of white mycelial strands seen at collar region. Repeating the symptoms, excessive vegetative growth, high soil moisture, and cool weather favor this disease. Diagnostic symptoms is chlorosis or drying branches in the field. A web of white mycelial strands seen at the collar region. It can be controlled by deep ploughing, avoid excessive vegetative growth, avoid excessive irrigation, use disease-free seed, crop rotation with cereals, and non-host plants. Okay, if you are going to control this with chemicals, see treatment with carbendazim at the rate of 2 gram per kg, spraying chlorothalonil at the rate of 2 gram per liter. Now moving to pest management, there are different types of pests in this chickpea crop. Okay, of them there are two different types. Okay, one is cutworms and the other is borers. Okay, if there are any pests related to cutworms, it can be controlled by spraying or applying linden 6% granules at the rate of 20 to 30 kg per hectare mixed in the soil. Okay, what we have to do to control these cutworms, we have to apply linden 6% granules at the rate of 20 to 30 kg per hectare mixed in the soil should be recommended. And if there are any pests related to pod borers, to control this, we have to apply endosulfan 35 EC at the rate of 1.30 liters mixed in 900 to 1000 liters of water per hectare. Repeating again, if there are any pod borers, we have to apply or spray endosulfan 35 EC at the rate of 1.30 liters mixed in 900 to 10,000 liters of water per hectare or recommended. Okay, of this and detailed description about pod borer, it is also called Helicoverpa armizera. Helicoverpa armizera. Okay, it is widely distributed in chickpea growing areas and annually yield losses up to. It will causes mostly damage about the whole crop. Okay, it crosses the ETL level also sometimes and it causes huge damage in the crops. Symptoms can be seen by pod borer can invade the crop from seedling to maturity. Larvae feeds on leaves, flowers and pods. Larvae mostly green in color, can be brown, yellow or pink also sometimes. The large larvae cut round holes in the pod wall and devour the seed inside. Okay, causes the damage to the seeds and reduces the yield. It can be controlled by growing resistant sources. Okay, or use moderate resistant cultivars like ICCV10, Vijay, ICCV7 and ICCL 86103 varieties. Okay, it can be controlled by growing resistance sources or resistant varieties cultivars like ICCV10, Vijay, ICCV7 and ICCL 86103. Okay, it can be controlled by cultural methods like early sowing, grow short duration varieties, intercropping with coriander, linseed, marigold, mustard, sunflower or wheat will be helpful to reduce the pest incidence. Okay, install pheromone traps which can capture the insects. Install bird patches at the rate of 10 to 15 per hectare. How many bird patches should be? You have to recommend 10 to 15 per hectare. Okay, by spraying endosulfan 2 ml per liter and indoxacarb 1 ml per liter will be recommended to control the pest. Okay, and if there are any cutworms, as I said before, widely distributed in chickpea growing regions, mostly seen during seedling mortality up to 30% in some localities also. Okay, symptoms will be temporary flooding, fever, damage due to cutworms. Okay, larvae feed on leaves, stems and roots. The larvae are grey-black in color. If we see the pod borers, that will be in green, yellow or brown in color. If we see the larvae of cutworms, it will be in grey-black in color. Seedlings are cut at or below ground level. Okay, you can control this by some cultural methods like deep ploughing, Crop rotation, intercropping with wheat or linseed or mustard will helpful to reduce the pest incidence. Okay. Grow marigold on bunds. We can also control this by spraying chemicals like endosulfan or aldrin, ALDRIN, aldrin at the rate of 2 ml per liter. Biological control by spraying metarhizium, anisopane or NPV. Okay. If there are any brood shades, it can be said as Calosobruchus cainensis, CALLO, Caloso, SO, BRU, CHUS, CHINEMSIS, Calosobruchus cainensis. Brookage, it is distributed during the storage pest or cosmopolitan. Okay. We can see the symptoms. The adult and grub feed on the grain by making a small hole. White eggs are seen on damaged seeds. After harvesting, when we have stored these grains, this pest will be seen in the grains. Okay. Control measures will be keep clean seed in pest-proof containers. Okay. We have to check after harvesting whether the containers are pest-free or not. Okay. Dry pots to optimum kernel moisture level to 7%. We have to dry the pots without having any moisture content in that up to 7%. Okay. Periodical exposure of the grain to sunlight will reduce the pest incidence. We can also control the spread by spraying malathion 0.05% at maturity. Fumigation with aluminum phosphide will reduce the pest incidence, and with the biological control also we can reduce this pest by seed treatment with neem leaf powder at the rate of 5 to 20 milligram per kg seed, and coat the seed with neem seed oil with 3% or vegetable oil 12 ml per kg. Okay. These were the control measures of pest of brushings. Now moving to harvest and yield. When we are going to harvest this crop, we have to mature about within 159 days. Okay. Within 159 days we have to harvest this crop. If we see, check the yield. Chickpea has the potential to yield far higher than the national average. A well-managed crop yields about 20 to 25 quintals of grain per hectare, which is about 3 to 4 times higher than the national average. Okay. It yields about 20 to 25 quintals of grain per hectare when we have managed all the conditions and by giving our full efforts. Okay. We have to, by managing this, we can get 20 to 25 quintals of grain per hectare. These were the crop production practices of chickpea. Students, if you are having any doubts, you can ask me so that I will clear your queries. Thank you. And now I am going to put some questions about today's topic. Botanical name of chickpea. What was the botanical name of chickpea? Second question. Origin of chickpea. What was the origin of chickpea? Third question. The Indian grams have been classified into how many groups? Indian grams have been classified into how many groups? Fourth question. Chickpea is a which season crop? Chickpea is a which season crop? Sixth question. Most suitable soil for growing chickpea. Which was the most suitable type of soil for growing chickpea? Next question. Name some varieties of chickpea growing under Tamil Nadu region. Name some varieties of chickpea which were cultivating in Tamil Nadu region. Next question. Yield of chickpea. What was the yield of chickpea? Ascochyta blight can be controlled by spraying which chemical? Ascochyta blight can be reduced by spraying which chemical? Thank you.